Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Recreation Rooster Podcast, season 2, 3. This one is NCTRC pre-approved. Um,
Yes.
yeah, which is good. So push for them to pre-approve the whole podcast. That's what we need. Yeah, because it's expensive to pre-approve every one. So. Feel like that, in my view. So, but of course, with that, um, we have and we'll kind of do this as a practice. Introduce the uh name of the episode and the learning objectives uh as well. So I'll hand that over to Maisha.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining us today. Of course, you guys know this is season 2, episode 3 of Recreation Rooster Podcast, which is a podcast for and about recreation therapy and also for recreation and leisure and health enthusiasts is what the podcast is about. And of course, I'm your co-host. I'm Aisha. I'm based out of Los Angeles. And of course, you get to hear from my great co-host, Dan. We are really enjoying the process of growing this podcast, and we encourage you to join us in this thoughtful, thought-provoking learning experience that we have. And as he had mentioned before, we are NCTRC approved for this particular episode. So for season 2, episode 3, we are NCTRC approved. So we encourage you to partake in the podcast, learn, grow with us, and also share with others. With that being said, our our theme for this session is the Recreation Rooster observes all risk. So for this particular episode, we're going to be talking about a lot of different topics regarding risk associated with being a recreation therapy practitioner. And we do have a few objectives in place for this particular episode, which we do have 3 objectives that are required. So make sure that you pay attention to answering these 3 objectives throughout the duration of this episode. So with that being said, our first objective is state why a SWOT analysis is important. That's the first objective. The second objective is state 2 additional credentials customarily used in the recreation therapy practice. And then the third objective is state 2 general coverages and professional liability insurance for a recreation therapist. So those 3 objectives again are state why a SWOT analysis is important in recreation therapy practice, state 2 additional credentials customarily used by recreation therapy practitioners, and the third one is state 2 general coverages and professional liability insurance that recreation therapists oftentimes have in their coverage. So with that being said, let's get started, Dan. Let's make it great. Go ahead, Dan.
Yes. So to start off with, we're gonna do like usual, the quote of the day, which usually involves recreational therapy of some sort, and kind of uh, why we are important, what is important about it, the different history, theory, and philosophy regarding recreational therapy. So this one is gonna be some days are simply made for playing. So, that is the quote. Some days are simply made for playing. So, once again, some days are simply made for playing. So, it's a Saturday. The holidays are quickly coming upon us. So, a lot of people definitely don't really, um, feel like play is sometimes kind of looked down upon uh in this culture. And I mean, of course, we kind of sometimes dress it up, but essentially playing is uh a key feature in our lives and really a core component of how we learn from the very beginning when we're very, very young. So we learn through play. So
Absolutely. And I mean, studies do show that there are some countries that are more adept about balancing that work life, personal life. And there is also studies that show that as Americans, oftentimes we fall short in that department. as recreation therapists, we have the aptitude and skill and knowledge to encourage our clients and encourage organizations to acknowledge the benefits of balance when it comes to not all work. Let's have some time to play, to de-stress, and to interact with one another, and to focus on our health and wellness. We notice that when you do have proper balance, that you have more sustainability when it comes to your working longer, happier, and more fulfilled and more productive work as well. It makes for a happier, safer work environment for all involved. Yes, indeed. I love that quote. Thank you. Thank you so much for that quote for today.
Hmm. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Without a doubt. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, really, there are so many. I mean, because it really relates to life. Uh, but all right, go ahead and do the song of the day, Maisha.
All right, guys. So oftentimes at the beginning of my day, where I may have a long commute, I oftentimes enjoy a really great song, and I love listening to bands like Survivor. So one of my favorite songs that I wanted to share with you guys was "Eye of the Tiger." As you guys know, it's a really popular song on some major soundtracks throughout the years. And we did notice that with that steady bass line and those very, courageous words that are spoken in that particular song by the Survivor Band. Many clients get up on their feet and get to moving whenever they hear this song by Survivor, which is called "Eye of the Tiger." So that is the song I wanted to share with our followers and with those who are tuned in with us today regarding a great song that's used in recreation therapy. Yes.
Yeah, it's a very upbeat, motivating song. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And next up, guys, we're going to have our next segment is on advocacy, amplifying our voices, increasing visibility through signage decorations, and also being strategic about the location that you put this signage, which is high traffic areas like main lobbies of facilities, making sure that you have proper signage that designates where you're located so that when foot traffic comes into buildings where RTs are servicing clients, you can be easily found. Um, so, and I believe that that's actually my segment to cover. So, just a quick history on some of the many struggles oftentimes that RTs experience when it comes to trying to ensure that recreation therapy is added to all the main signage and is added to the contact list and added to the information desk. Oftentimes we're kind of hidden in plain sight, unfortunately. So you'll hear about all the other services and departments that are being offered at a facility, but you may not be able to find recreation therapy added there. So I encourage each and every one of you to advocate through plant ops, through executive leadership to ensure that recreation therapy is actually added to all signage and is easily accessible to the clients and to the caregivers of the clients when they come into the space, and also on the digital platforms as well regarding the websites and everything else, that there's actually a tab for recreation therapy and a point of contact and a way to access the services. What's your thoughts on that, Dan? Have you found that to be the case, that sometimes when you go into buildings where recreation therapists are there, they may be kind of difficult to find?
Yeah, sure. Indeed. I mean, of course, also, it's one of those things where we kind of are, in many ways, can be seen as, in terms of dollars and cents, the public relations people of the facility. And if we could create signage and pictures and other items that make ourselves very visible. That's really going to that is one of those things that administration will definitely like because it really does make the facility look good. Um,
And then also ensuring that that signage and that is very professionally done, that is actually in sync, and it is comparable or the same as all the other signage that's done for all the other disciplines. We shouldn't have to outsource our signage if if there's already a budget in place for signage to be done for the building and for the respective disciplines.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, yeah. That's definitely for sure. Yeah, without a doubt, is the signage and making it visible. I mean, you could even post some what I used to do oftentimes too is post well, a big calendar as well as pictures of the residents in programs and stuff like that around the calendar as like a big kind of marketing piece. If you have articles that have been printed in the newspaper, you could hang some of those up too. Make it look visible. I mean, of course, visibility is key in our profession because it's easy for other people to squeeze us out.
Yeah, and also too, I mean, when it comes to even seasonal decorations and stuff, if this has been primarily, put into place by the Recreation Therapy Service, why not give yourself credit? Why not hang, hosted by or facilitated by Recreation Therapy, on the brochures, on the art murals and different things that have been put into place. Like it's essential that we puff our chests out and we let people know that we're here and that we're affecting positive change on the community and that we're servicing our clients, and any kind of tangible deliverables that we can show for all the great work that we do on a day-to-day basis. Why not? So yes, RTs, get out there and toot your horn. Show people that you're great. Make yourself accessible. Make yourself visually accessible and easy to find. Okay. And you might as well go ahead and do it. If you don't do it, no one else is going to do it. So let's just be bold, let's be great, and let's make sure that we are accessible to our client base and to those who may not know anything else about us and may be interested in seeking the services that we provide at that organization or even outside of that organization. That's my thoughts on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, and now we're going to talk a little bit about behind the numbers, about how 4.9 million children about have asthma and how we work with them. So, you know, in many ways, safety first, especially before doing some physical activities. Sometimes they need asthma treatment. So, you know, uh, always check with the nurse or get them the necessary treatment before doing a physical activity with people who have asthma. And there's misconceptions around it that some people believe that people with asthma can't do physical activity, but uh, they can, and it's essential that they do, actually. Every bit as essential as it is for everybody else. So, and keeping up their stamina will help offset some of the asthma symptoms uh, as well. So, encouraging that physical activity in and sometimes gradually building it up after safe medication treatments, so that way the people with asthma can function better and better, physically. So,
Absolutely. And I believe that we as, RTs, just in general, it's a customary rule for us to always take into consideration any barriers to leisure. And, with there being issues of breathing, be it emphysema, which has asthma as a secondary or asthma being the primary, just taking into consideration having the necessary emergency or urgency medications and systems and processes in place onto how that will be administered if the client can self-administer, if they cannot self-administer, and then of course adapting programs and engagements to facilitate that gradual improvement in asthma management so that they can breathe effectively. As we all know, being unable to breathe is one of the scariest things on the earth for a human being to experience. Some of the programming in particular that RTs tend to focus on when it comes to working with clients with asthma is not only physical fitness, which is low impact recreation and in fitness and fitness programs, but also low impact creative arts programming, like singing and dancing and different types of artistic expression that encourages the client to build up those that lung capacity. Even we've even doing things such as working with musical instruments, having music lessons and stuff in place for the client, so they can build up that air capacity, and they can feel more comfortable when it comes to managing their asthma. So I believe that many recreation therapists can find really creative ways of aiding clients who are asthmatic and getting out into the community and reducing their sedentary lifestyle. Indeed.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, also, that's also with creative expression, music, dancing, and everything. That's also an opportunity to help, you know, people with asthma process their thoughts and feelings of having asthma. Um,
Right.
because I mean, it is very scary for them. They might have a lot of thoughts and feelings that they need to process through that. So, and we're one of the people that could definitely help with that. Um, probably in a way that other therapists might not be able to, because we get them to do all those activities.
Right. And then also too, just creating a very, safe, non-judgmental environment. Whereas if a person is having an asthma attack and they're there in a group setting, that there's a proper debrief and a certain amount of empathy and sympathy and support that is given to the client, so they don't feel embarrassed and dread returning. We want them to return. We want them to understand that that is just one episode. It does not define them, that they are more than their asthma, they are more than their chronic ailment, and they can get past it and through it together.
Absolutely, yeah. That group support is very, very critical.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
In our next segment, guys, it is on the history of therapeutic recreation, or as some people say, recreational therapy. Take it away, Dan.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I talked about this in the last episode. I mean, I might have a little bit, but of course, the Jane Addams and the Hull House in Chicago was a big I mean, I think a lot of disciplines take credit. A few of the disciplines take credit for her. I mean, really, social work as well. Just the fact that a space was created where people could come and get, lifestyle help, assistance, and in a supportive, nurturing environment with different kinds of therapeutic activities of sorts in that kind of a milieu. Uh, is very critical. But I mean, more in the history, of course, the Veterans Administration is very, very big. After World War II, it really became the VA, recreational therapy service was essentially established. Um, and there was also with that uh, a big increase. Coinciding with it in nursing homes as well. Um, so, and some formal programs came into exist. I know even Columbia University in 1950 uh, had a master's degree program in phys ed and recreation, uh, in rehabilitation. Um, Springfield College has got a master's degree program in it. University of Minnesota. Um, and um, so yeah, it was gradually over the course of that time that we got it more as a formal profession. Uh, yeah, 1953 NYU started a program. So like what I was saying, it's a little bit scary now because some of the programs have gone out of existence. SUNY Cortland, my alma mater, got a master's degree program in 1957, as one of the earliest programs. Um, so, a bunch of them started to pop up, in the 1950s, uh, a little bit post World War II. There was also, after World War II, suburban sprawl. There was a wider suburban population with the baby boomers and their parents moving out of the cities into more of the suburban areas, and having kids, and then those kids would eventually grow up and get more houses, and that's why we have as much suburbia in this country as we do in many ways. But really, this is that was really in many ways the birth of recreational therapy was after World War II, and during that baby boom period from 1946 to 1964 essentially was uh, the baby boom period, and of course it was critical for our military personnel as well. I mean, even in Vietnam, is that was also uh, a time period. I mean, as unpopular of a war as that was uh, wars and those kind of things on bases were a critical um, aspect that was a critical aspect for our profession. Was Yeah, the military and uh, recreational therapy has a long history together in many ways. In a way, uh, yeah, the VA and the VA is one of the few services that really have formal, real recreational therapy department in a way. So, um, you know, that's a little bit about the history, which I mean, of course, I mean, in some ways, I almost feel like it's just as important, if not more important, to focus on where we are now and where we're going. But it is good and it's important, I feel like, as always, to look back on the history of things. Um, so, NCTRC was founded in 1980. I mean, 1981, um, and the National Therapeutic Recreation Society, which I think that just kind of evolved into ATRA as the only uh, national program that we have. But I mean, it did in 1980. It got how do I say it? Yeah, it is part of Public Law 94/142, which is in this, which means that it's considered a related service in the schools. I mean, it was that far back as in 1980 on the West Coast out by you, Maisha. You have that in the schools, which is good, which is great. On the East Coast, I haven't seen it much, at least in the public schools. So sometimes some private schools, some special needs schools have it, but other than that, not really. So you know, there's many more. I mean, and we'll see. We'll talk more about this. There's many challenges in the profession of getting from where we are to where we need to do. And actually, I believe this is the episode we're going to begin a whole SWOT analysis on going over the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges of the profession. But there's quite a bit that we need to do to get from where we are to where we need to go. Yeah. But we actually do have there has been a framework in for a while for some of this, like since 1980, when we were considered a related service in public law in the school systems. So we need to push more into that sphere. And I mean, of course, you might have also heard about, you know, the things that we can do for college students. Maisha and I actually presented on that at Danny Petrie's conference. So you could look that up also if you want. And for some reason, I can't see him, Maisha. But, okay. There you go. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and we presented about how it could be in colleges as well. In and what we presented on that at Danny Petrie's conference. So you can look that up too if you haven't seen that presentation already. So
Absolutely. I think it's great that you gave us a very, brief overview of the history of therapeutic recreation, or as some people say, recreational therapy. I do prefer recreational therapy as a term, but at the end of the day, I am a health and wellness practitioner that utilizes leisure, recreation, and structured sports as a framework to effect positive change in symptom management or even skill acquisition to improve independence and optimal functionality for clients and their loved ones and their communities and the society as a whole. Um, and I find that we do great work, guys, as recreation therapists. We have a legacy to uphold of being one of the first practitioners that utilizes integrated, holistic health and wellness principles, where we treat the whole body and we look at the whole individual and we take into account what the clients enjoy, what they aspire to be, and the things that are required for them to be as independent as possible. We see a new wave of opportunities and possibilities presenting themselves to us, and we have to stand up for the challenge of doing so. And in doing that, what it requires is that we not only meet the minimum standards of competency, but that we are marketable and we are competitive on not just a national market, but on a global market. As we see huge changes in the landscape of recreation therapy within the United States, what we don't see is the global expansion of recreation therapy into different, I would call them hotspots in the world. We see more and more of that, and we see our profession evolving and changing into specializations as well. So I would say definitely pursue what your passion is. Continue to build your competencies and aptitudes as a health practitioner and be bold in expanding our reach in different and new exciting spaces. We are an exciting profession. We get to do things beyond the bedside, and beyond the building when it comes to improving the quality of life and optimizing the functionality of our clients. And then we also are able to show these things through tangible deliverables and tangible outcomes. We have books that have been written by different scholars within our profession and with recreation therapy allies that show us how to demonstrate the improvement of our clients in tangible, standardized assessment screenings. I have been fortunate enough to buy a new book, and I actually want to show you guys it really quick. Let me grab it.
hmm
And Recreation Rooster has not received any funds to endorse this particular book. However, I wanted to say, even though I love my red Bible, this is a game changer. Thank you, Dr. Reghab. Munir G. Reghab, thank you. And thank you, Idle Arbor, for this wonderful book on measurements for leisure services and leisure studies. This has been a game changer for me as a practitioner on the private sector it goes through so many different populations and so many leisure studies and leisure use as a therapy intervention processes that it has given me great tools to demonstrate progress and lack of progress for the clients, and for me to improve my plan of cares, and me to improve my delivery of services and my interpretation of services when I am at treatment team meetings and otherwise. So I would say for every RT, don't sell your books back. Crack your books open and improve your delivery of services, improve your competencies and your knowledge base. This will aid you greatly in the next generation of recreation therapists. It will aid you greatly in demonstrating your value and your asset to companies, demonstrating your value and your asset to direct consumers as a provider. So continue to empower yourself. I encourage you guys to grab these great books. They're out there and they have all the tools and resources that we need to be great. Yeah. All right. I think we beat that horse, didn't we? So next up, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about nuts and bolts of TR. And as you guys know, one of our great skills as recreation therapists is that we are event planners, okay? And I think oftentimes people, they don't acknowledge that. They say, oh, I'm just a recreation therapist. Well, guess what? Being just a recreation therapist is being great. So when it comes to event planning, being able to plan a series of events seasonally, taking into consideration all the subtle nuances and details that are needed for each of our respective clients, taking into detail and taking into consideration our how we transform treatment spaces into social, I would say, social and leisure um, atmospheres, right? How we go about utilizing decor, lighting, sound, smell, food and beverage, theme, decor, to demonstrate and acknowledge the celebration of culture and custom and individuality and diversity of people, building awareness and tolerance for different cultures and ethnicities, even evoking joy, respect, camaraderie, right? Socialization, happiness, enlightenment with others as well. When we do events, it's critical that we build our event planning skills, and that we collaborate with different community partners and other professionals in the hospitality and tourism industry to ensure that we are providing a optimal experience for our clients. No longer are the days of just, rolling clients into a room, cutting on some music, and serving some pie. Our clients are a lot much more informed and a lot much more vocal about wanting an experience, right? So we as recreation therapists need to embrace event planning. I challenge you to connect with event planners that are willing to, offer some pro bono, if not training for staff, some pro bono hours of service, before an event. Reach out. You'll be surprised how many event planners will be willing to assist and support the process of transforming a space for a social event. And then, of course, me, I love to read. I grab books. I take courses in order to improve those delivery of services, because it's nothing quite like having clients roll into a room that was once a treatment space and looks totally different. Just a change of environment makes all the difference. And they are so appreciative, and it creates memories, and it also creates motivation for them to look forward to the next event, and for them to work their health plan, and stay on with their plan of care, stay on with their ADL, stay on with their medication management, connecting with family members, understanding that, guess what, I can invite my family to come and see me, and we have a social event to go to. It's not just rolling me outside to the porch, type of thing. So event planning is critical. It's critical in our arsenal of supplies that we have to be a great recreation therapist. So I encourage you to sharpen those event planning skills, and remember that we are recreation therapists, and event planning is definitely part of our arsenal. And what's our next one? What's our next segment?
I agree. Yeah, and moving on to the next one is clinical applications, Red Book assessments.
All right.
Mhm, yeah.
So, I believe that on one of the previous episodes, I did mention the LDBA, the Leisure Diagnostic Battery, and I also did mention the STYLAP, which is the state technical. Let's see here. I want to make sure that I get the wording correct. The state technical interest in leisure. State Technical Institute's leisure assessment process is called the STYLAP. So now, this particular time, what I'm going to focus on is called the Factor R. And the Factor R is the functional assessment of characteristics for therapeutic recreation. And this assessment tool covers a series of different areas. It does cover physical, cognitive, and social emotional. And under each area, it covers the functional skills related to leisure. It also covers whether or not this skill will influence program participation. And it also covers whether or not RT services can improve a client's functionality. So under physical, we have a couple of different subcategories. So under physical, we do have sight and vision, hearing, ambulation, bowel and bladder, upper extremity manipulation, general coordination, eye-hand coordination or hand-eye coordination, strength, and then we also have cardiovascular functioning such as endurance, weight, and balance. In those areas, you have a couple of different checkoffs where you either you rate the level of functionality, and you gather this information by interacting with the client in a recreation, leisure, or sporting activity, and you ascertain that information. We also have the second category, which is cognitive. So the subcategories for cognitive is orientation to your environment, oral expressive language, receptive language, attending and concentrating, long-term memory, short-term memory, thought process, learning, literacy, math concepts, decision-making ability. Okay? So those things are under the second category of cognitive. And then the last category for a factor R is social emotional. So for social emotional, we do have dyad or two-person interactions. We have small group interactions, which is 3 to 8 persons. We have social interest, general participation, cooperative, meaning compliments and sharing voluntarily with others, offering emotional support to others, competition, conflict and arguments, emotional expression, frustration, authority and leadership, and purposeful interactions with your environment. Those are the 3 categories with the corresponding series of subcategories that the recreation therapist rates the client on. And then what you do is you go into your summary for your report writing, and you give your interpretations, your summary, and your recommendations on what is strengths, what is weaknesses, and what can be improved, and what interventions are recommended to improve, and also which objectives, which goals, which objectives and milestones should be implemented to start the process in the plan of care. And with that being said, that is the segment on one of our Red Book standardized assessment tools. So, and that was the factor R, and I'll mention it again, is the functional assessment of characteristics for therapeutic recreation. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah. And I believe that is also one of our objectives that we're focusing on at this particular episode as well. So just to move on to the next one, which is private practice tips, we want to talk about business names. So oftentimes, some people, especially in therapy settings, they will name a business after themselves, utilizing their face likeness and image, and name likeness and image as NIL for their branding. And then you have another school of thought where they utilize a common moniker or a common theme or name to evoke a thought in the consumer's brain regarding what they might need or want to improve their life, meaning a service or a product that they may need. So, a perfect example is if I wanted to use my name, image, and likeness, my recreation therapy firm would probably be called Jones Recreation Therapy or Jones Therapeutic Recreation, right? And however, I chose to utilize a moniker or a common theme name that would evoke a positive image or a thought to my consumer about what their needs might be. So my business is called New Horizons Concierge Firm, and I utilized that name because I felt like those words, New Horizons, gave thought of recovery, new day, new opportunity, and concierge is a high touch engagement with the client, which oftentimes that's what we do as recreation therapists. So that is why I chose to use a theme or a moniker name instead of my given name. Dan, a question, because I know you also have a consultation firm in New Jersey. What was the thoughts behind you giving your company the name that you gave it?
Well, I mean, of course, what do you call it? My uh internship supervisor and mentor, Leisure Art Servodone, has a firm called Leisure Art Consulting Services. So I just kind of went with that, Leisure Dan Consulting Services.
I
So
love it. Straight to the point, right?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Absolutely. And I also too, I love the fact that you put Leisure Dan in front, like you gave yourself almost like a nickname.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like it actually. Yeah.
absolutely. So when you do come up with, so when you get past the the process of choosing your name and selecting your name, then what you do next is you actually go on to platforms such as GoDaddy on the social media platforms to ensure that no one else has your name. Now, let's be honest here. There's a high possibility that people still may have your name. However, but it gives you an opportunity to create little differences in your name to stand out. And also, as you know, all the names are actually paired to your respective location as well, your globe, your location on the map as well. So you know it might be commonplace for you to have another person that might have a name similar to yours, but for the given city or state or country that you're in, you want to make sure that you are able to be found. And then what you also do is you go to the city, so you go to the city's business office and you register your name. And then you also do the same thing with the federal government. You register your name and you get yourself an EIN associated with the name with the bank account. Okay, and then to take it even a step further, if you find it advantageous to go ahead and become a S corp or LLC, you go ahead and you do the proper paperwork to register that name as well, the same name. And then, of course, you do all the customary things, making sure all your marketing has the name and the logo attached, that your all of your materials, as far as your correspondence and your watermark on your letterheads, that everything is matching, so that no one will ever get you mixed up with anyone else. And then also to making sure that you do have firewalls and stuff into place. Whereas if another malicious entity tries to utilize or copy or duplicate your name, that you're able to flag that and get it removed. So yeah, that is the information on business names. And next up, guys, we do have our segment on looking forward, where we talk about recreation therapy and also the future and the evolution of the profession. So with that being said, we wanted to talk a little bit about increased competition and how many recreation therapists have found very creative ways of creating a nice niche for themselves so that they can be as competitive as possible. So we wanted to talk a little bit about many of the different credentials that recreation therapists are obtaining and utilizing in addition to their national or their state certification. So with that being said, we have many recreation therapists also may also obtaining the title of wellness coach. So we do know that there are several, there are more than several. There's a slew of organizations out there that are offering certificate programs for coaching, for wellness coaching. And, just like I would say, many RTs, in my opinion, we already have many of those skills in place. However, it is nice to be able to get an extra certification and refresher course on making yourself more marketable and more valuable to the consumer base. Another another certification that we are seeing more and more of is the CPRE, which is given by NRPA. This is the certificate for parks and recreation professionals, and it's also parks and recreation executives. And this is a certificate. It's a 3-year certificate that is given by NRPA, and it is really showing that you have the administrative and the business skills in order to run a large regional and state and national recreation programs, which includes not only recreation therapy, but also general rec in community settings. I myself have the CPRP, and I am going to be sitting for the CPRE examination this coming August of 2025. So I am actually studying for that now. And there was a few others, in particular. Dan, chime in for me if any of these sound familiar to you. You said it's CDP?
Certified dementia practitioner. I mean, if working with uh people with dementia's your thing, that's a good credential to have. I mean, assisted living facilities, skilled nursing facilities, long-term care, short-term rehab, subacute rehab for people who are there a short time, but many of them have dementia. Both in to some degree, adult medical day centers or assisted living facilities or long-term care, skilled nursing facilities, short-term rehab facilities, and that population. So, yeah, that's definitely one of the ones that could make you, stand out in the field. So,
Thank you. Thank you for explaining that one. And we have another one, the CALA.
yeah, certified assisted living administrator. So if you want to, go towards the administrative side of things, that's definitely one credential. And actually, I believe it's only like a $1,600 course to do. So it's pretty reasonably priced comparatively. And then you can have that credential to be an assisted living administrator. And I know that there's that's what it is in the state of New York, the state of New Jersey. It's probably that all over the country, I'm presuming. But,
Mm-hmm. And then we have another, the CBIS.
Certified brain injury specialist, yes, and that's national. And of course, same thing with a certified dementia practitioner. You could also get a certified dementia practitioner like as a trainer and be like training other people. Same thing with a uh, certified brain injury specialist, and you could get that as like a trainer too. So you could train other people per se, but. Yeah, if brain injury is your specialty, and you want that to be your specialty, and you're gonna look into having that as your specialty, that's a good one to go for. Um, you
Absolutely. And
uh-huh.
we have one more, guys, the LNHA.
Yeah, that's a licensed nursing home administrator. And of course, yeah, if what do you call it? If you want to go into administration with for nursing and rehab. Um, yeah, that's the credential to get for nursing and rehab, short-term rehab, long-term care, skilled nursing facilities. Yeah, and I mean, of course, we need more, you know, people with the recreational therapy backgrounds in administration. So,
Absolutely.
that's good. But I mean, there's other credentials too. I mean, of course, I know in the state of New York, it's a certified an alcohol and substance abuse counselor, a
Mm,
KSAC. I forgot what it's called in New Jersey, but I mean, for people who really want to do substance abuse, uh, that's also a good one to have, um, and could set them apart in that area as well. So.
thank you. Thank you for explaining those other four. There's so many different options out there, recreation therapists. Just understand this. You're great. You're great. These only add to you. So don't feel as though you can't go ahead and practice once you are credentialed as an RT. But it's always great to build that knowledge base and other different niches that you are passionate about and that you are curious about. We need to keep expanding the reach that we have in different categories, any in different populations. Is what I wanted to mention. So our next segment is Iron Sharpens Iron, talking about workplace dynamics. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about justifying your TR and your RT services to executive leadership. As you guys know, there's certain metrics and stuff that go into place, especially with executive leadership. Just understand that they may not be health related at all. These particular professionals that are in these management positions, and many times they're not. Many of them may have a master's in business administration or other degrees, and they may not be completely health focused. So, with that being said, some of the different metrics and stuff that you have in place really strikes a chord with them, and some do not. I oftentimes always say that any type of consumer or client reviews or opinions or statements or comments are always embraced by executive leadership. They are very much focused on satisfaction or needs and demands that your client base may have. So, oftentimes, what I encourage RTs to do is to offer a new admission and a post admission um, survey. It could just be 5 questions on a Likert scale with a comment section at the bottom. And taking the time to track that and to really get that into a graph is always a great thing to give to executive leadership when you are speaking about justification for your the services. Another thing is numbers as far as how many clock hours are utilized in direct care. And also, too, what I tend to do also is I focus on what the primary mission of the organization is and what their 5-year plan is. So try to tap into some of those metrics associated with the overall mission and the 5-year plan for the organization. And if there's anything that you are doing as a collective or even as a pilot in your department that is associated with that, speak on that and show the numbers and show the pictures. You'll be surprised how I always say it's a superpower. It's like a our hidden arsenal that we have with artists, that we have so much marketing or pictures to show when we are conducting programs and conducting sessions. So definitely having those things in place too. Another thing would also be just speaking on work productivity for your group collectively and also individually. And then also strong emphasis on, let's just say you wanted to focus on, fall prevention through balance and conditioning. And then speaking on new programming or current programming that you have in place for that. Speaking on your ability as a department to be fiscally responsible with your supplies and equipment, maintaining your equipment over a course of years so that they know that the investment will go far. Making sure you utilize your equipment. If you get 5 MetaQuest VR sets, showing that you have numbers that you are actually utilizing your MetaQuest and that your MetaQuests are in good condition as well. Doing those training and development and those community partnerships and alliances for different programs, such as at the VA we have a partnership with Honda where they supply us with guitars, and we also have a partnership with music organization. So it's just like a trifecta of ensuring that we have year-round music and guitar lessons and performances for our veterans that affect positive change in their life as well. And then speaking to the prevalence of suicidality and aggression, showing there's a reduction in psychotropic med use, showing that there's a reduction in crises and uses of force for your veterans as well. I mean, for your clients as well. And that takes a collaboration with nursing and also psych to get those numbers and crunch those numbers. Because we want an inverse relationship between an increase in recreation therapy programming means a reduction in suicidality, a reduction in isolation, a reduction in sedentary lifestyle, a reduction in fall risk, and falls, a reduction in aggression, a reduction in violence, right? We want that inverse relationship. And being able to show that correlation via graphs is a great way as well. And then, of course, in the delivery of speaking to your executive leadership, understanding that your PowerPoint should not be endless paragraphs. Should be short, concise, and straight to the point. And then also just have those moments where you're pulling at heartstrings with the visuals. And if you can top off, put cherry on the top of your presentation by having a comment or even a video of a client expressing the great benefits of your service. It really, really drives the message home that you guys are sustainable, you're a viable service, and that you're an essential service that needs the staff, the support, the resources, and of course the compensation to be great. So that is some of the recommendations. I would say, just being a manager for a number of years now when it comes to justifying RT and TR services. And I would say just one thing off the top: never, ever, ever compare yourself to any other discipline. Never start any presentation or justification of your services by comparing yourself to any other discipline. Focus surely on yourself. There we go. So Dan, any insights or comments about times that you've had to justify services to your executive leadership? Because I know you are also a manager.
Yeah, but I couldn't agree more. Yeah, everything you just said, absolutely. Hmm. Yeah.
Great, great. Okay, guys, we're going to go on to the next segment and we're almost done. We're almost done. So, our next segment is State of the Profession, where we're going to talk about SWOT analysis and we're going to talk a little bit about weaknesses in the profession. And what we're also going to do, just to ensure that we adhere to the objectives, is that we're going to talk about why a SWOT analysis is so important. So, Dan, if you can just break down why, if you can break down what a SWOT analysis is, and then we can go back and forth and talk about weaknesses, and then we can top it off by talking about why it's so important that we as recreation
Right.
therapists do a SWOT analysis.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, it basically is an overview of the aspects of recreational therapy, therapeutic recreation, or anything that you're measuring, any business, any endeavor in terms of what's in it, what's important, right? What are the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, challenges that you have, all of that. Um, and these are essential to know, really. That's why you don't want to be blindsided by not seeing something as well. So, we have a lot of all of those things in the profession. Uh, Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. So,
Yeah, as any profession, guys, and it's not just
yeah.
us, it's any profession. If you want
Mhm.
to stay currently competent and you want to stay currently competitive on this global market that we are in 2024, it's essential that you lay out strategic plans. And one big part of it is being honest with yourself. Just being honest about the landscape that you're in and how the dynamics of the landscape impact you as a practitioner and impact your consumer base, your client base. Also, taking a hard look at what you do on a day-to-day basis as far as the practical and technical application that you do as a practitioner and how that actually creates a advantageous environment for you as a practitioner, or it does the opposite. Okay. Also, taking into consideration any new emerging trends that are coming into place, any new emerging professions that might be offering services that might be similar or duplicates, and also taking a strong look at what drives the consumer's decision making. And if you have a marked interest in um, improving your favor as a recreation therapist when it comes to the client preferring recreation therapy over the other competition. And it's not just about dollars and cents. The consumer is not just choosing something based on, oh, it's less price or it's more price. It's actually has to do a lot with feelings of trust, security, and also desire, right? So a lot of those things definitely play a role, and these are all things that recreation therapists can use to our strengths because we are a high touch service that looks at the whole person, and we do tend to focus on interventions that are in alignment with what the client is already interested in doing, right? In a safe, non-judgmental, very stimulating and fun fashion. With that being said, so I believe that a SWOT or SWOT, meaning strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, or strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges, are essential for a recreation therapist to do. Me, myself, I actually do one pretty much once a year minimum. Okay. And as new trends come along, I definitely go back to the drawing board and really take a really, objective, not subjective, but an objective look at the landscape and how I can adjust and I can pivot. Okay. Many times on our blogs, we do hear a lot about the challenges or the threats that recreation therapists feel on a day-to-day basis. And it is essential that we not only talk about the threats, but we also talk about our strengths, that our weaknesses and our opportunities so that we can have a strategic plan in place. And that is on a personal level and on a collective level that can be in place to affect a positive change. Perfect example. State of California does not have licensure. State of California currently does not have direct billing through Medicaid or Medicare for recreation therapists. So I seen that as a challenge. However, I still wanted to go ahead and get a CMS number as a individual direct provider and also collectively for my business, New Horizons Concierge Firm. And I found ways of getting around still being able to submit billing, right? So if that means that I have to go in partnership with a profession that does have licensure and the ability to bill, then so be it. So if that means that I have to have a medical director, medical coordinator in place in order to get all of the credentials in place for the different major insurance providers, then so be it. And the thing about it is this. So when the tide does turn legislatively and we do have direct billing opportunities in California, I'm definitely going to be gung-ho and going forward with it. But in the meantime, um, any loophole that you can find that can improve delivery of services and also access to be able to be compensated for your services, then you do it. Point blank, period. And then what you also do on a collective is that you continue to support, ATRA and other national and regional organizations that are tasked with advocating for us as a collective body in these legislative spaces. So you do everything at the same time. And now let's talk a little bit about SWOT when it comes to the challenges that we do have in the profession. As I did mention one of them already. Any that you wanted to mention, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, we have licensure in New Jersey supposedly, but we don't know where it is. And excuse me. I mean, of course, this is a problem nationally in terms of billing for third party reimbursement. Um, I mean, there are ways around it, maybe, but in some ways, but yeah, you have to be very creative. It's also a one of the areas that sometimes is not looked at as a necessary service, so it's often the first to be cut. It's often on the shopping block, um, in terms of funds, and of course, they also see us as something that costs money, but doesn't necessarily give w- uh, the
Revenue
facility money.
generating?
Uh, what's up?
Revenue generating? Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Right. Indeed. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's why, I mean, of course, yeah, I mean, of course, if we highlight it right, it can be a very good public relations tool. So, that's where we have to, do that, uh, in terms of, and why, that's also part of the reason why it's so important because, it, yeah, it does cost agencies money, and it's not revenue generating directly like the other professions are. So, um, that's why marketing it really is, in some ways, I would say, extra important for us, in a way. But,
I'm
um,
so glad that you brought up about the money too, because I know one challenge that many artists talk about is wage disparity, right? That we need parity when it comes to wage. That many of us, we go through school and we amass a certain amount of student debt, and then we find ourselves in situations where we are making just a little bit more than someone with no education who's flipping burgers, right? And so this is a huge challenge for us. It's that we need parity in compensation. We need um, we need to collectively come up with a strategy and a plan in place to make it non-advantageous to hire RTs at such a low wage. for all of the skills and education that we have amassed, right? So that is one challenge I know that we collectively should tackle. Indeed. I know one way I was able to tackle that individually was that I just got rid of the middleman. I just said, you know what, I'm going to open my own business and I'm going to set my rates and go direct to consumer. And that aided me tremendously. Now, if we can only work out this parity in big organizations, big health systems, much like they did here in state of California under the unions, we were able to work out parity when it comes to compensation. As you guys know, here in California, we do have some of the highest compensation packages in the nation, though we do acknowledge that there's a huge cost of living index
Yeah.
here too, right? So, but we're not the only state. There are other states too that are tackling parity in pay, and they're making great strides. Many people do mention Indiana and Texas as well. I know here in California we do too. So, just coming up with, like I said, concurrently an individual plan for you as a practitioner, and then also a collective plan when it comes to tackling some of these challenges that we are experiencing. And just to recap, some of the challenges that we had spoke about during this particular episode is the challenge of perception, right? Value, asset, um, compensation was the other one, and also being able to bill direct to consumer. That was one. So that was at least 4 or 5 that we mentioned during this segment. But there's more, and we'll be talking about it more and more as well. So that is on that segment. So our last one is actually the Recreation Rooster stamp of approval. And this is Dan and I's acknowledgement of a great organization or a great individual who we feel embody the mission, purpose, and the brilliance of recreation therapy. And today I would love to acknowledge Dr. and Professor Susie Roth. I had the pleasure of seeing her at the ATRA conference. Susie Ross, ROSS. I had the pleasure of seeing her at the ATRA conference that just passed, and also speaking to her class back in 2023. She is an exceptional recreation therapist who also does holistic wellness, utilizing the environment, and she does a lot of really groundbreaking programming with chiropractors as well. She is an amazing professor based out of California. Um, I believe that she is just really just a treasure for us to really have in the profession and to admire. So please, reach out to her through LinkedIn. It's Dr. Susie Ross is her name. She is a recreation therapist, and then she is also a health and wellness practitioner who utilizes holistic wellness in environments, in natural environments. And with that being said, happy Recreation Rooster stamp of approval, Miss Susie Ross.
Yeah.
And with that being said, that wraps up episode 3 for season 2 for Recreation Rooster Podcast. As we mentioned before, this particular episode is NCTRC approved for 0.1 CEU. So please go ahead and partake and share and follow and connect with us on our upcoming podcast episodes, and also our ones that we started back in January of 2024. We're going strong. We're getting better every single time, and we're going to keep talking about topics that are relevant to health and wellness and recreation enthusiasts such as yourself. If you would love to reach out to us, please do so. I'm Maisha at recreationrooster.com, and also you can call me if you would like. My number is 213-524-6925. I'm based out of Los Angeles and the owner of New Horizons Concierge Firm. We are a consultation service offering recreation therapy to the masses. And Dan?
Yeah, Dan Chiavo, 845-987-0104. 845-987-0104. Leisure Dan Consulting Services. That's Leisure Dan Consulting Services. Daniel at recreationrooster.org. Daniel at recreationrooster.org.
Yes, and we do have T-shirts that are for
Yeah.
sale. They're 25 a piece. That's our Recreation Rooster logo. We have beautiful, vibrant T-shirts for sale, and we also do take bookings for speaking at conferences and also virtual bookings as well, in person or virtual. We're just super excited to be able to keep expanding awareness about our great profession, edifying, building each other up, and creating an uplifting environment so that we can grow and prosper financially and productively. Changing communities one client at a time, one event at a time, one social engagement, one therapy session at a time, and making everything great. So, with that being said, you guys have a great holiday season, and we'll be seeing you next week at the Recreation Rooster Podcast. Bye bye.
Yeah.